Gamification, or the use of game element and game principles in non-game contexts, is now commonly used for educational purposes. It helps the audience cultivate interest, stay engaged, and it invokes knowledge absorption and retention by making the experience more personal. Creating games to be played in a remote setting also allows the content to be more accessible, especially with the pandemic or when the audience is located in distant places. While there are many tools for museums to create their own games, they often come at a huge cost, and it is hard for museums to update and maintain the contents by themselves. In this video, I will be showing how you may easily create a decent and playable first-person trivia quiz marathon game from ready-to-use 3D assets using Mozilla Hubs. It is a free-to-use virtual collaboration platform that runs in your browser, and it allows you to create your own 3D spaces with a single click. Many other advantages of using Mozilla Hubs include that Hubs rooms are accessible across different devices, from VR headset, web browsers to mobile phone. Rooms have simple controls, and as a platform, it comes in a great balance between utility and engagement. You can personalize avatars, hear each other using spatialized audio, and share a variety of contents. Now, there are some limitations, of course. You can only have a limited number of visitors, typically 25, to access one room at the same time, but others are allowed to watch in the lobby. And there are also some limitations on the file sizes and the quality of rendering. So you won't be able to have a gorgeous looking environment like that of a AAA game. On the contrary, the minigames that you make using Mozilla Hubs are more accessible for people with mobile or low-power devices, and it comes at a much lower cost. So, how do we create a minigame in Mozilla Hubs? Let's start off by planning your minigame. So thinking about the rules, gameplay flow, and what assets you might need. You don't need to have everything clear and mapped out for this stage. As you get creative later in Mozilla Hubs, you may fine-tune your plan or tweak things around. But having the plan guides you through your workflow and allows you to save time by creating assets in advance. For this video, I'll be creating a short trivia quiz marathon on Chinese art history. It'll take place in the game map where players spawn at the start point. They tour through 4 buildings while answering questions until they reach the end goal. For each building, players answer 2 questions, one from the outside and one inside of the building. Each question contains 4 different options. Only the correct answer would teleport players to the next question, and choosing any wrong answers sends the player back to the start point. While you may access tons of ready-to-use assets on Mozilla Hubs, I would suggest finding your own personalized graphic or UI elements online or creating your own using external design softwares. In my case, I have pre-made some super rough PNG files with the question text on a transparent background using Figma, and I've collected some photos of artifacts online. You can also import videos into Mozilla Hubs if that's something you find appropriate for your game. And creating an inventory with proper naming conventions can help you keep everything organized and speed up your process later. Now we've got all the basic assets. Without further ado, let's get started on Mozilla Hubs. Once you go to Mozilla Hubs website, you can see a page like this. Here I've already signed in, and if you haven't, then just go ahead and create an account. It's completely free. And once you're done signing in, you can just go ahead and click on create a room to start. Every time you create a room, it's gonna go to a default setting, so a room like this is probably what you'll see. And now I'm gonna start letting you know how to create your own space. So you would go to more and click on room information and settings, and down here you can see an option of change scene, and this will lead you to a page showing all the options that is already available online. And here you can click on my scene, and this will allow you to see the scenes that you already created and create the scene with Spoke, which is the tool that Mozilla Hub uses for users to generate their own content and scenes. Once you click on this, it's going to show you a list of options that you can start off with. These are the pre-made models uploaded by different people, and it allows you to speed up your process. For the purpose of this instruction, I'm just going to go ahead and start off using this available option called Surrounded Lake. So as you can see, it takes you to this blank space, but with pre-made lake environment as well as surrounding mountains. And here are some of the tools that you can use to build up your own environment and just personalize everything. So you've got the elements, assets, architecture kit where you can build up walls or floors. And it's worth mentioning this tool called Sketchfab. So it's basically another portal connected or collaborating with Mozilla Hub. It allows you to download pre-made 3D models created by other artists. So all you have to do is just click on it and drag it so that it drops into your scene. And sometimes some of the models don't work, but just keep trying. There are many good resources available through Sketchfab. For my marathon quiz, I'm just going to go ahead and use this Chinese ancient building model. Click so that it drops wherever you want. You can see it's really small and tiny compared to the rest of the scene. And it's because it's scaled as 0.01, which is really tiny. And so if we change it to 0.5, it becomes bigger or more tangible. And once your model is in your scene, you can see there are 3 angles pointing in different directions. And these are the tools that allow you to move the model. So you can just click on each of the arrows and drag it so that it goes only in the direction of X or Z axis. We don't want a architecture that's just sitting on the surface of the water by itself. So I'm just gonna create a plane or a platform right in front of my building. So I'm gonna go to architecture kit, and here you can choose different options, and I'm gonna pull out an asset from the platform category. And up here, you can see the rotate tool, which allows you to rotate also based on the 3 different axes. And here we go. We now have a floating building in the middle of the lake. And you see these 4 figure signs, which was already here when we created this file. These are called the spawn point. And it is where users would show up as avatars when they first entered this room using the scene. And in element, you can find where's all these different assets or elements to use. So for spawn point, we just talk about it's where users would appear when they first enter the room. And there's a different asset called waypoint, which will be used when we do teleporting. Usually you should probably create more than one so that it allows multiple users to enter the same room at the same time without clashing into each other. But for the instructions, I'm just going to leave it as 1. According to our plan, we're going to have a place where player enter the room and start the game, and then they will go from there to jump into the area where they answer the question. So I'm going to use the architecture kit and create a platform across the river from the architecture that we have. And as you can also see here, the spawn point is in a different scale as the architecture, so it's quite big compared to the structure, which means once the player enters the room, they will be in a huge size in comparison with the building. So I'm gonna change the scale of the spawn point to 0.2 or 0.3 so that it matches the size of the building. Now let's decide where the player will be teleported to once they click on a start button by placing a waypoint in front of our building. And it also have the same qualities with the spawn point, so the direction arrows and the scale. So let's go ahead and scale it down to 0.3, so same size with the spawn point. And you can also see that the waypoint as a figure also have a direction that it's facing, which means once the player teleports to this direction, they'll be facing the direction that the arrows point at. So we want players to be facing the building when they teleport to here. So let's go ahead and rotate this figure toward our architecture. So how waypoints would work is they basically function as an anchor point. So it comes up with a link that you can use to access. So once you're in the room, if you click on the link with the name named after each of your waypoint, it's gonna teleport you toward this waypoint. And I'll show you how this works once we're in the preview mode. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rename this waypoint to question 1 so that later we can use it as a link. And you can simply duplicate the waypoint as well, similar to an asset, just by copy and pasting. I'm gonna go ahead and place another one inside our building as the space for players to complete their question 2. So now we have everything for like the general progress, going from the start point to answering question 1 and once finishing question 2. So now let's test out how it works. I'm gonna go ahead and save the project so that it's uploaded to the cloud for me to use as a scene. So that if you go back to Spoke, where it shows you all the projects, you can see a new project has been saved here. And then what you do for others to access this scene is to publish this scene. Okay, so save and publish. And once it's loaded, you'll be able to see everything. So to access this room, create a new room using this scene. And now it has already created a new room. Every time you create a new room, it's gonna randomly name it, and you'd be able to change it in room setting later. Once you're in this room, you can see we have appeared at spawn point, and you can just easily move around using WAS as a direction. We aren't able to see any of the waypoint that we have placed for players to teleport, and that's because all the waypoints or spawn points are supposed to be invisible once you're actually in the room. Every time you create a room, it always comes with a different web address, and the way for us to access waypoint inside of a room is if you copy paste the web address of this room and add hashtag the name of your waypoint, so in this case question 1, and this is the link that directs to the waypoint. To put this link right inside the 3D environment, all you have to do is just drag it and drop it into the space. We have a different asset with a button that says go to, which directs you to the waypoint of this link once you click on it. So now we know how to actually take use of waypoint. I'm gonna go back to the Spoke portal so that we can start adding all the assets that we created as environmental instructions for the quiz itself. And we'll be using this tool called Media Frame. So it allows you to place media inside a set position once you're in the room. It works the exact same with all the other assets, with like arrows you can use to move it around or scale it as however you want. And here I'm gonna place one right in front of our spawn point for us to place a start instruction, and I'm gonna put different ones in front of our building as instructions for question 1. So I'm gonna place a larger one on the top for us to place the question PNG, and 4 different small ones in the bottom to place the options. And in order for you to see it in the room format, you have to publish it again for you to see the changes. go to More, Room Settings, and click Change Scene. And here you just click on the one that you have been saving to, so that once you log in again, it's going to show you the changed version, the updated version. We can't really see the media frame that we created on Spoke, because how it works, it's also similar to the spawn point and waypoint, that it's transparent until you actually place assets in it. And so we're placing the link in the environment by typing this link out and dropping it into the scene. When you're dragging the asset that you want to put into your media frame, you can see all these blue frames in the environment showing up, and that stands for where the media frame is. And all you have to do is just drag it until you see it pops up into the media frame, and release your mouse to snap it into the media frame. So now I'll be doing the same for all the instructions and the option asset that we have created. So drag it and drop it from your local file to create a different asset, and then you just move it until it snaps to the media frame that you want. So now we have the link where it directs players to the second question once they click on the right answer. And remembering our plan, we want players to go back directly to the start point and start all over again if they click on anything that's wrong. Any guesses on how we might do that? You're right, waypoint is the way to go. I'm gonna speed up the video for this bit because everything has been talked about, and what I'm doing right now is placing a different waypoint behind our start point so that it gives us space to put another instruction, such as keep on trying once the player click on the wrong answer. Also, remember to rename this new waypoint. I named it as restart point just so that it's easier for us to access it as a link. And I'm also placing different new media frames on top of the ones that I already have for question 1, so that it becomes easier for us to place the links once we're in the environment. The difference between the asset that you place once you're inside the room from the asset that you placed in spoke mode is that everything you place in the room disappears once you leave. So the way that you pin an object is to press on space button to call all the commands. Click on the pin, it's gonna pin the object so that it stays even if you leave the room. We've now been through all the basics using Spoke to create rooms for Mozilla Hub, and if you repeat all the process until you have all the assets that you want that you have designed for your game, you'll end up with something similar to this. In this video, we have learned how to create a new scene with Spoke, place and set up an asset, adjust spawn point, set up waypoints to determine where players can teleport to, and placing media frames so that you can set up the media files into a set location. We have also learned how to create a room using our scene, importing local assets, placing a link for a player to navigate using the waypoints in this scene, and pinning your assets so that they stay in the room permanently for you and other users to access. While a trivia quiz marathon is just one type of minigame that you can use to engage your audience, with all the Mozilla Hub's basics that we have introduced, you can start exploring different possibilities for interactive experiences. For instance, you may create a treasure hunt game or escape room for players to learn about your collections and the content. Or if you want to keep everything simple and purely educational, Mozilla Hubs is great for interactive online workshops and lectures as well. So get creative and see how far you can go with a free-to-use and easily accessible tool like Mozilla Hubs.